Hello, this is Nick Murray, Policy Analyst with Maine Policy Institute, here with a special message for all those who made this event possible. Our sponsors, Anania & Associates Investment Company, Central Maine Power, Susan Collins, United States Senator, Scott Foray, Hardwood Products Company and Puritan Medical Products, National Distributors, Patient Advocates, Patriot Insurance, RH Foster Energy, Strategic Maintenance Solutions, and our hosts, Dirigo Partners, Estes Oil and Propane, Mailings Unlimited, Maine Civic Action, Maine Motor Transport Association, Moody's Collision Centers, Noyes Hall and Allen Insurance, Christopher and Nancy Pierce, Bruce Poliquin, Preddy Flaherty, the Allenbaugh Agency, the O'Halloran Group, Volk Packaging Corporation, Don and Nancy Vos, and our media sponsor, The Ray Richardson Show on WLOB Radio. Thank you all for supporting Maine Policy's mission to advance prosperity and individual liberty in Maine.
Good afternoon and welcome to Maine Policy Institute's 2020 Freedom and Opportunity event. I think I speak for everyone at Maine Policy and indeed in the audience when I say that I wish that we were able to gather together in person this year. This event is something that we all look forward to every single year. It's a chance to see old friends, it's a chance to meet new ones, and to be energized by hundreds of people that are gathering together to celebrate their shared vision for a prosperous Maine. Of course, the main reason that we can't gather together in person is quite simple. We're living through an unprecedented public health challenge, and in seeking to respond to that challenge, our governor has used emergency declarations to accumulate total authority to pursue a heavy-handed approach that favors restrictions, favors lockdowns, and it favors quarantines, and it's concentrated all decision-making in the hands of one person. Now, no one denies that the COVID-19 pandemic is a threat to Maine's people. I myself have seen family members struggle with the virus for several weeks, and I have no interest in either acquiring the virus myself or passing it on to anyone else who might end up facing serious health consequences as a result. This is, in fact, serious, and we should absolutely be doing things to try to fight against the disease. But did it have to be this way? Did Maine have to be run this way? Did we have to shut down the state the way that we did? Now, a look across the border in New Hampshire tells us several important things. New Hampshire has never had an executive order mandating masks, whereas Janet Mills issued such an order on May 1st. In New Hampshire, Governor Chris Sununu lifted the crowd gathering size limit on July 1st, whereas in Maine, we continue to have upper limits to this day that make events like this one impossible to do in person. Early on, New Hampshire allowed bars to be open with 50% capacity as long as they maintained some social distancing and limited interactions in the bar area. Mills ordered indoor bars to remain closed on June 22nd, and we are just now beginning to allow them to open up again on a limited basis. New Hampshire exempted the entire New England region, including Massachusetts and Rhode Island, from their quarantine restrictions on July 2nd. While Maine just loosened the restrictions on Massachusetts in late September and still to this day maintains a restriction on Rhode Island. New Hampshire's back-to-school guidance was light and empowered local schools to make their own determinations, while Maine's is, by contrast, a centralized attempt to dictate decisions to schools and is so restrictive that it mandates children as young as 2 years old to wearing masks. But perhaps most importantly, New Hampshire's economic reopening plan was constructed by a partnership between government decision makers as well as industry stakeholders, which allowed them to actually design a safe return to work with input from the very people that were impacted by the shutdowns. In Maine, these decisions were made by the governor and the executive branch bureaucrats alone. And the result of all this is pretty simple. For the past several months, on cases, on hospitalizations, serious cases, as well as deaths, New Hampshire has been performing comparably to Maine for several months. My message here is just very simple. It's possible to take action to protect people, to guard against the virus, and respond to this public health challenge without trampling on the freedom and self-determination of our people, and without destroying the foundations of our Republican form of government. For Maine Policy Institute, that is the center of our work today. Throughout the pandemic, we have been working tirelessly to pressure the Mills administration to reverse course on her most damaging decisions, while simultaneously working to enact positive reforms in the most difficult environment that we have ever worked in. Now, doing so has brought us some major successes. For instance, we have pressured the Mills administration to extend the income tax filing deadline to provide Mainers with the time that they needed as the economy was grinding to a halt. We also pushed to relax regulations surrounding medical licensing and telehealth services so that needless red tape wouldn't stand in the way of Mainers getting care. And we spearheaded a drive to get thousands of signatures from ordinary Mainers demanding that the economy reopen, complete with a plan for how to do it safely. And we placed that on the governor's desk, and it was only days later that her reopening plan was announced. But obviously in other areas, we still have a lot of work to do. Due to the irresponsible explosion of spending in Governor Mills' first budget, Maine now finds itself more than $1 billion in the red. And we're going to be fighting hard to ensure that state government addresses this shortfall without raising taxes. More importantly, though, we have to address the governor's emergency authority and ensure that we never again live through this kind of single-person rule in Maine. And I'll personally never rest until that safeguard is achieved. But beyond that, Maine Policy Institute is going to continue to stand up for Maine's economy, and we're going to relentlessly push to get our state running again. We'll make sure that Maine is better equipped to deal with a public health emergency, and we're going to do that by pushing aggressively to eliminate Maine's Certificate of Need law. This is a law that has stood in the way of building the critical healthcare infrastructure that we need and the capacity that the state needs. And we're going to continue to fight for Maine's kids, who increasingly seem like collateral damage in the state's response to COVID-19. Now, none of this work, though, would be possible without your support. So for joining us here today, I want to say a quick thank you. For those of you who are joining us today who contribute to the Maine Policy Institute, I say thank you to you. And for those who will be making an additional gift this year, I say thank you once again. This has been the most challenging year of our existence, and we need that help more today than we have ever needed before. So if you're in a position to help, please consider making a gift this year and perhaps giving a little more than usual. We have so much work ahead, and we are up against an army of progressive activists on the other side, bureaucrats, lawmakers, etc., and we need your help. Head over to mainepolicy.org right now, click on Donate, and make your voice heard by donating today. So again, thank you for joining us here, and thank you all for the support you have given to Maine Policy Institute. Now, before we move on to honor our award winner this year, I want to make sure that we take a moment and mark some time here to mark the passing of someone very special to us here at the Maine Policy Institute, Mr. Dick Jackson. Dick passed away peacefully on October 2nd, and he was surrounded by family. We share their feelings of loss, and we're going to miss him greatly. He was a fighter, and he was a patriot, and there is simply no way that we would actually be sitting here celebrating freedom and opportunity right now if it were not for him. He was born in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. He grew up to show an interest in the world around him, especially in the workings of mechanical things. After high school, he fostered that curiosity by heading west, earning an engineering degree at Iowa State University. In 1955, Dick was commissioned as an officer in the U.S. Navy, where he flew anti-submarine aircraft. Following his Navy service, Dick launched a 30-year career at PDM, a Pittsburgh-based steel fabrication company founded by his grandfather, where he would eventually serve as president. Fortunately for all of us, though, retirement brought Dick and his family to Maine. Once here, he quickly got to work helping the local community, particularly by helping foster STEM education in Maine, as well as coaching small business owners. In 2002, recognizing the critical absence of a strong and credible voice for free market advocacy in the state, Dick helped to found what was then known as the Maine Heritage Policy Center, providing Maine with the resources, the advice, and the leadership that were necessary to build a serious organization that could help fundamentally shift the ideological realities in this state. But more than anything, Dick was a friend to all of us. He was a constant fixture at our events, quickly making friends, sharing a laugh, telling a story, and asking what everyone thought about the events of the day. He was engaging, he was thoughtful, and he cared deeply about the future of this country. Dick was an incredibly special person, and I don't think I have ever met another human being who cared more deeply for the United States, for its future, and for the special place that it holds in the story of human freedom. To hear him talk about this country and his hopes for it was to hear somebody who truly, truly loved America and what it stood for. He was fearful for the long-term impact that the erosion of our nation's core values would have in the future, yet he never lost that sunny optimism about the country or about his life. He lived an incredible life, and I think his greatest wish was that future generations of not only his family, but also those of us in the American family would be able to share the blessings of prosperity that he enjoyed in his life for our children and our grandchildren. We can never truly repay the debt to Dick for the role he played in this organization's history or for his impact on our lives. I'd ask, though, whether you knew him or not, to honor his memory by ensuring that you make your own voice heard and that you never sit on the sidelines while critically important issues are being decided. Stand up, be counted, get involved, and fight for the things that make this country so remarkable. In the end, that is perhaps the best thank you that we can offer him. And now it is my distinct honor to introduce to you the 2020 Freedom and Opportunity Award winner, Puritan Medical Products. In this most unique of years, I could think of no better example of the potential of Maine people and what they're able to achieve than Puritan. They're an amazing Maine success story and are the absolute essence of the concepts of freedom and opportunity. Now, when the COVID-19 pandemic struck Maine and struck the United States, we needed a radical increase in testing capacity, which could only be made possible by a group of hardworking Mainers in Guilford. They answered the call and radically increased production of cotton swabs, which are used in COVID-19 tests. And they did so by tens of millions, while building multiple new manufacturing facilities and creating hundreds of new, good-paying Maine jobs. This is their story.
It's an honor to be recognized as being a driver of economic freedom and opportunity for the people of Central Maine. The area is a lot of times forgotten by people in the rest of the state, and this really isn't about the leadership at the company. It's about the people that are putting in all this effort. They're really working. The employees in our factories believe in having their opportunity. It's a big honor to be awarded this, just because it is such a wide-ranging topic, but we feel we've been embodying that this year by helping the people of Maine, helping the people of the country, and really just not ever saying no to a challenge that's been in front of us.
It started with the manufacturing of toothpicks. We had the Hardwood Products Company, which also produced ice cream sticks and novelty sticks early on in the early 1900s, mid-1900s. And then it came the tongue depressor, and the tongue depressor was the jump-off spot where we learned and created to make a wooden applicator stick.
The innovation that we've had over the years has allowed us to develop new swabs.
It's purely innovation in how you make something, and we're very good at that, and we're very good at changing things to make them better, so they do particular things that the customers may need. Puritan and Hardwood invest in their people, and I think that's important, and the people are the local people and the communities that we have our facilities. We do continuous education with our employees. We promote from within. We find that homegrown innovation within the walls of our companies are a much better bet sometimes than trying to hire someone from the outside.
Puritan's always been involved with our local communities. Since the employees come from the towns that we're living and working in, we've always supported a lot of different community activities. We feel that investing in the children in our communities that their parents have worked so hard for us is a great way to recognize the support we get from the community and to try and give back. When there are large festivals in the area or canoe races, we always are sponsoring them and trying to be involved, because these are things that our employees like to be involved in, and we want to show appreciation for everyone in the area.
Some breaking news and a special announcement. We know that testing as it relates to COVID-19 has been a big concern, and we need to increase testing across the community.
You can now get free testing for COVID-19 at a medical center in Fort Washington.
Capacity has been a challenge in the city since the virus came here, but now you're seeing increased amount of testing every week.
Back in the middle of March, we started getting phone calls from everyone in the government, from the CDC to state governments to our senators. Everyone was looking for more testing supplies. We're the only US manufacturer of the swabs that are needed for all the different COVID-19 test swabs. And we started to realize, we knew there was going to be a problem coming, and we'd been ramping up our production, but we didn't realize how big the problem was going to be. Through our conversations with the government, they started talking about the Defense Production Act and how they might be able to support what they call an industrial-based expansion, which just allows you to make more capacity to help in this problem. And over the course of the month of April, they talked to us about that and said, hey, we need you to find some partners. And they're going to find us some partners. They lined us up with Bath Iron Works, another Maine business, to help us build machinery. We found Chinbro in Pittsfield that had a facility available and talked to them about, can we retrofit this? Can we find a way to make this into a state-of-the-art manufacturing facility, which is where we're sitting right now. Over the course of about 2 days, we went from meeting with Chinbro to developing a proposal for the government in conjunction with them, to submitting that and having funding to build a new factory. This partnership with the government has really allowed us to expand our operations, to hire a huge number of people. We've hired 300 employees already. We're going to hire probably at least 200 more in Pittsfield, Maine. It's a rural area where there used to be manufacturing. All the manufacturing that was here has gone, and we're bringing it back. We're trying to grow the Maine economy. The government wanted us to be able to make 20 to 40 million foam swabs a month to aid in testing. We're already at that level now. We're going to continue well beyond that because we have decided to continue investing and growing to the point where this factory that was supposed to do 20 to 40 million swabs a month, we're going to be able to do 90 million swabs a month. At the same time, that's still not enough. So the government was still talking to us saying, well, what else can we do? How can we partner? Where now, down the road, we have another project that is being undertaken right now, funded through the CARES Act that was sponsored by Senator Collins, and that plant is going to produce another 50 million swabs a month, specifically designed to be the right swabs for COVID-19 testing. If we weren't doing this right now, if we weren't positioned, if we hadn't kind of fought back the Chinese imports over the last 10 years, there would be no U.S. manufacturer that's making the volume of swabs that we're making.
Puritan prides itself in being an American manufacturer. We're a family-owned business, 102 years old now, going into 2021.
I've seen the COVID-19 pandemic as somewhat of a generation-defining event. All of us for the next at least 5 years, and I would say probably even 10, when we get sick, we're going to be more likely to go to the doctors and get tested. So the demand that we're seeing extends many years into the future. We've talked to our big customers, and they think the same thing. This is not a short-lived problem. We're building capacity so that we can handle the long-term need, not capacity just for the surge right now. Our employees are having to work huge hours that they're volunteering for to meet the needs right now. And once it levels off, we're going to have the right amount of capacity for the standard U.S. testing need. We're very optimistic looking into the future. We've taken huge challenges and overcome them by getting all of our people together, working in conjunction with the government, working with our communities and solving a problem. And I believe that if everyone can be a little more willing to work together, that the economy and the state can be very successful going forward.
It's a real pleasure to be here at Puritan Medical Products today. And Scott, thanks so much for inviting us in to take a look at your beautiful facility and all the great work that you guys do. When considering this year who was going to be winning the Freedom and Opportunity Award, it's really amazing how there was no other candidate that we could think of, frankly, that deserved it more based on everything that's happened this year and all the great work that Puritan has done. I can't think of another place that we would rather be honoring right now and another group of people that we wouldn't rather be honoring. So Scott, on behalf of everyone at the Maine Policy Institute, we want to say a quick thank you for all the great work you do for Maine and for promoting freedom and opportunity in the state of Maine this year. And it's my pleasure to present to you this award.
Matt and Maine Policy, thank you very much. It is an honor to receive this award recognizing freedom and opportunity. We'd like to thank also the many sponsors of this event and all of the people that contribute and help Maine Policy in its mission to extend freedom and opportunity around this great state. And most importantly, I want to thank all of the employees at Puritan. The work that they have done has been amazing, and the challenges we've overcame in just a short period of time really show what the people of Maine are capable of. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My thanks to the Maine Policy Institute for its commitment to individual liberty and economic freedom. I'm proud to join in today's celebration of those values. It's a pleasure to congratulate Puritan Medical Products for being recognized with this Freedom and Opportunity Award. When our nation called for a dramatic increase in swab production for COVID-19 testing, the employees of this great Maine company responded with a truly extraordinary effort. Puritan has long been a global leader in medical products. This April, when it became clear that its existing plant in Guilford could not keep up with the increased demand for swabs, Puritan teamed up with Chimbro, another terrific Maine company, to build a new production line. Within a mere 2 months' time, that new line was up and running. By the end of the year, it will produce 90 million swabs per month. Just 2 weeks ago, that outstanding partnership announced a second expansion, one that will add another 50 million swabs per month. Together, these factories will create more than 600 new jobs at Puritan, in addition to hundreds of construction jobs. Protecting Mainers' health and our economy, as well as increasing the domestic production of medical supplies, are my top priorities. I'm pleased that Puritan received $126 million to support these expansion projects through the CARES Act I helped negotiate last spring. This award recognizes Puritan's commitment to fighting the pandemic and creating economic opportunities in rural Maine. It is the perfect way to demonstrate the entrepreneurial spirit of our great state. Thank you and congratulations on this great achievement.
Thanks so much, Senator Collins, and congratulations once again to Puritan Medical Products. Now I want to introduce to you our keynote speaker for the afternoon. We're very pleased to hear today from Mr. Jeffrey Tucker. His new book, Liberty or Lockdown, could not be a more timely or compelling read for all of us right now. In it, Mr. Tucker sought to bring attention to the most shocking and widespread violation of human freedom in modern times, the authoritarian lockdown of society on the pretense that it was necessary in the face of COVID-19. Learning from the experts, Jeffrey Tucker has researched this subject from absolutely every angle. In the book, he lays out the history, the politics, the economics, and the science relevant to the coronavirus response. The result is clear. There is no justification for the lockdowns. To him, the choice is clear. We choose liberty or we choose lockdowns. We're very pleased that Mr. Tucker was able to join us here today to discuss the importance of human freedom and the necessity of standing up for the preservation of liberty in the most challenging of times. We welcome Mr. Jeffrey Tucker.
Thank you very much, Matt. My name is Jeffrey Tucker. I'm the editorial director of the American Institute for Economic Research, and I'm so grateful for this invitation to address you, the Maine Policy Institute, which has been just absolutely heroic throughout this period of crisis. I hope you understand just how important your voice has been, because like you, I've been shocked at how few people have had the courage to stand up and say what's true about these lockdowns and the crisis into which we've been plunged this year, this dreadful, sad year of 2020, during which time things have happened to us that we never even imagined possible. And I believe that the only way really to fight them is through ideas and getting those ideas out there. And AIER was very happy to cooperate with Maine Policy Institute on this struggle. So your voice, it was so important to, I mean, we both know this. There were not enough people and not enough state-based think tanks that were really on this, but you produced scientific work that was truth-telling, and so proud to be a partner with you. Maybe you recognize this room I'm in. I'm not sure if you would, but this room is what we call the Harwood office. It's a very beautiful room. A fortnight ago, the Great Barrington Declaration was signed right here on this table. And after an extraordinary weekend. And then everything changed, as you know. It only took a week for the World Health Organization to change its own policy on lockdowns and make a specific statement against lockdowns. That was amazing. The White House shifted its policy. The Great Barrington Declaration has been endorsed by many top intellectuals, been signed by 10,000 scientists in a variety of fields. We estimate probably 5,000 scientists that specialize in health policy and medicine. And also 600,000, as of this moment where I'm speaking to you, 600,000 members of the general public. So this needed to happen. Something needed to happen. So maybe now's a good time to quickly tell you the story of the Great Barrington Declaration, where it came from, and who signed it, and why. The instigator of the whole thing is a man named Martin Kulldorff from Harvard. I just got off the phone with him. I like to think of him as the John the Baptist of COVID policy. You know, he's just wildly passionate. It's very interesting. When I first, we've been involved in a very lonely struggle for all these months, and I was only about 5 or 6 weeks ago, I saw this scientist, epidemiologist from Harvard, tweeting against lockdowns, and I thought, this man must be the loneliest man in the world. So I just dropped him a Twitter note, and I said, hey, why don't you come visit us here at the house? And he said, but I don't understand what you're asking. I said, we have a house, and we have a professional chef. And he's like, now that sounds interesting. He's a very sweet man. So he came here with alone initially, right? And then and we invited a few other people. There was Stacy Rudin, and then also Janine Eunice, both attorneys, one in New Jersey, one in New York, public defender in New York. And we have our own fellows and students and a handful of other people. We had no agenda, and Martin showed up, and wow, it was quite a special weekend. We had no plans whatsoever. We just kind of hung out and went to a cidery and that sort of thing. Just talked about this catastrophe. In fact, we didn't do anything else for 3 days, but talk about COVID-19 and the policy response. It was really interesting. You know yourself, you drive your family crazy with COVID talk. Can we talk about something else? And you're like, well, there isn't anything else. That's the problem, right? So we did this for 3 days, and then about 4 days later, he said, Jeffrey, Martin called me up and said, Jeffrey, we really need a meeting of top scientists and journalists. I've got some people in mind I would like to invite. I said, well, who's that? He said, Jay Bhattacharya from Stanford, and Sunetra Gupta. Now, Sunetra Gupta from Oxford. Sunetra Gupta is the greatest epidemiologist in the world, and also a top philosopher. I like to think of her as the Hayek of infectious diseases, an absolute genius. But hey, there are travel restrictions. You can't even fly here from London, which is a scandal in itself. I said, how can this possibly happen? And he said, well, I can talk to Scott Atlas at the White House, and maybe we can get an invitation. I thought, okay, this is never going to happen. I said, when would you like to do this? And I said, we can do it on the 31st. And he said, there's no time. We can't wait. We have to do it this weekend. I was just amazed and shocked. I thought, that's crazy. But anyway, we opened up, and sure enough, by Wednesday, we did get clearance for Sunetra to come. By Thursday, she had her ticket. By Friday, she was sitting amongst us, along with Jay Bhattacharya from Stanford, Martin Kulldorff, David Zweig, most often writes for the New York Times, good articles for the New York Times, I should say. And then we had John Tamney from Real Clear Politics, and all of our students and scholars, and we were sitting in that room. Maybe I'll take you over there. And it was amazing. We didn't have any agenda whatsoever. But we did stand in this, we did sit in this living room. We put up chairs over here and set the journalists here and other people here. And the gentleman who's filming me right now also filmed that, along with, I had a couple of other cameras. But it was put together very quickly, very quickly. We went for 2 hours, talking about very important matters of public health, cell biology, and all the implications of what's happened to us and why. And it was absolutely riveting. I mean, my heart was pounding throughout the entire thing. And should I sit down? It's okay. And that lasted from 10 until noon, and then we broke for lunch. And we all had a sense that we were involved in something truly historic. But you can't be sure about these things, right? You can never know for sure. That afternoon, there were interviews. The journalists would interview the scientists. The scientists enjoyed themselves, talked to each other, talked to the students. It's very special. We had a nice dinner. The next day was a very interesting day because they were already getting invitations for interviews and that sort of thing. But the next day was the day when the declaration was drafted. It was drafted very, very quickly, actually, remarkably fast. And they put it up there. Our webmaster built the site for them, invited signatures. We had planned to release it in about 48 hours. Beautiful declaration, It's only 1,300 words, and just a statement of heart from the point of view of public health. I mean, it's so strange to me. It's like very controversial in some sense, but it does nothing other than state the basics that anybody should have learned in ninth grade about cell biology, along with public health concerns, and that's it. So it's a shock that it's become such a source of controversy, but mainly it opposed the lockdowns. That was the main thing. And for some reason, that's become taboo in American life. In fact, just this morning, Scott Atlas, a serious scientist who's now advising the White House, had his own tweets deleted by Twitter. I mean, it's like we live in crazy times. I can't understand it. Maybe I'll try to explain where I think where all this stuff comes from. But anyway, I think that's the whole story of Great Barrington Declaration, except I will tell you this. When it was being signed, Jay Bhattacharya said, this is going to get 1 million signatures. And I thought, how naive can you be? I've been involved in digital media for 30 years and 25 years, and there is very little chance that anybody's going to pay any attention to this. As beautiful as it is, as wonderful it is, I don't think it's going to go viral. You can't control. Nobody controls the internet really, despite Zuckerberg's pretensions to do so. Ultimately, it's so much driven by what people do and what they share. So I had no sense for sure that this was going to go anywhere. But then the next morning, we weren't prepared to release it, but they had done an interview, and the interviewer had already heard about the declaration and announced it. But now we had a problem. Woke up that morning, I guess it was probably 5 a.m., from frantic texts from everyone, go live, go live, go live. The site was not ready, but we had to go live anyway, and so we did. I have no regrets, no regrets. Things like that just happen. You have to, like the Maine Policy Institute, right? You have to be adaptable. You have to see what's necessary, seize the opportunity, move on it, do the right thing regardless, even if it's imperfect, even if it's scrappy. The important thing is to make a difference in the world. And yeah, that was a turning point for all of us. And I think the first bit of light I've experienced in 8 months, some sense of like hope that we can win this, that we can defeat this. And I think I still have some time. So let me just quickly, check outside. It's okay. I'm just going to give you the briefest possible description of my answer to the question, why? Why did this happen to us? How did it happen that everything we thought was true about the world was not true? The Constitution didn't protect us. The Bill of Rights didn't protect us. The public opinion that we thought was mostly in favor of more or less freedom, sort of stuff. How did that just go away? How did it come to be that overnight we got rid of baseball and Broadway, and you cannot travel, and people are under house arrest, and so on? You know the story. You have your own stories. Everyone's experienced tragedy. Like, why did this happen? My shorthand, I don't think there's one answer to this, but I think my shorthand explanation has to begin 20 years ago when the idea of modeling, statistical forecasting, and agent-based statistical analyses began to be applied to disease mitigation. That was began when the computer industry really began to sort of invade everything. It's like it's not science unless it's computer science, and they invaded health policy. Sunetra Gupta 20 years ago denounced this. She said this is very troubling, very dangerous. It's a form of central planning, and you can't centrally plan a virus. You can't centrally plan disease mitigation. So she's always been passionate about this. Things really got going in 2006 when George W. Bush, the apocalyptic president who lived through 9/11, invaded all these countries, thought that the solution to everything was big explosive policy responses, invited a bunch of epidemiologists. Well, what he did was he went to the VA, Veterans Administration, to the State Department, to the CDC and to the World Health Organization, and invited them all to present papers at the White House on what to do in the event of the next pandemic. By pandemic, he meant biochemical warfare, which he was very fearful of because of what had happened in Iraq and so on. There were two basic schools that presented there. One represented the medical doctors who said, well, you wait for the pathogen to come and you figure out who's vulnerable and you try to mitigate the disease, doctor-patient relationships and that sort of thing, while you try to come up with therapeutics. And well, Bush found that answer extremely boring. So on the other side, there were the modelers, right, led by Robert Snow and his 14-year-old daughter, from whom he got the idea of social distancing and targeted layered containment and curve flattening and all these things. Plan a disease the way you plan the economy. You see the analogy, right? It's the same thing. It's the same thing. And there's the same people who believe you can plan the economy also believe you can mitigate disease through forced human separation and forced closures and that sort of thing. Well, that was their version of events. 3D, PowerPoint presentations, assumption of homogeneity of risk throughout the population. That's where all the bad models come from. And so what did Bush do? He said, oh, that is a great plan. Let's have the CDC write that into their official pandemic plan. So this is 2006, and they did. A lot of incredulous people at CDC. In those days, people were actually scandalized by the idea of closures and warned against it. The world's most famous epidemiologist, it was Donald Henderson, the man who is primarily credited with eradicating smallpox in the world, former head of the World Health Organization, actually wrote an entire treatise against travel restrictions, against stay-home orders, against school closures, against all these things. Mandatory masks, you name it. Completely wiped out the entire lockdown narrative. This is in 2006. And there it sat. And in 2006, I wrote about this. I wrote an article, look what CDC says it can do. Look what they believe they could do. I never imagined it would actually happen, but I was scandalized enough that it was even in the plans, Well, 14 years went by where these people once at the White House had been holding conferences. They had been super well organized. They got to know each other. They got the mighty funding from Bill Gates and so on. And they really began to mobilize, to try out a social experiment on us. They really wanted to try it out. They waited for the right time. 2009 wasn't it. 2003, 2002, 2003, SARS-CoV-1 wasn't it. Although very deadly disease, it didn't spread very far. And there is, I'm sure as you're aware, there's an inverse relationship between severity and prevalence when it comes to viruses. It turns out SARS-CoV-1 was actually quite deadly. So it went away too quickly for them to try out their new plans. 2009 didn't work. H1N1, right? Now that was a scary one because that was the same thing as 1918, but nobody cared because we're in the middle of a financial crisis, so they couldn't do what they wanted to do then. Well, so why this year? Why did it happen this year? And I think we all know that the answer has something to do with politics. I don't want to get into this too deeply, but I think it's a mistake to imagine that all these things wouldn't have happened were it not for the great political divisions we have in this country and the passionate desire on the part of a lot of people to make sure that, to put it bluntly, that Trump doesn't win, and I'm a person who wrote an entire book against the ideology that I think he represents. So I'm not partisan in a sense, but it is derangement. It is insane to destroy society and civilization, destroy the arts, smash travel, take away human rights, promote despair, create conditions under which people don't get cancer screenings and vaccinations and don't even go to the doctor. We abolished dentistry in this country for 3 months. I mean, it's like unbelievable that all this happened. If you're going to do that, you better have very good reasons. They didn't have very good reasons. It was driven by political motives. I think that's true. Well, my friends, here we are, and thank you for listening to me on all this important topic. I'd just like to give a little bit of guidance maybe about the future. I mean, I don't know the future any more than you do, but I think there's going to be hell to pay. I'm not sure how else to put it. I think we're going to win the struggle. You can't suppress the facts. You can't suppress the science. It's not going away. The damage that we've done to our culture and society, not just in the United States, but all over the world, is incalculable and devastating. And we've promoted despair. We've done everything wrong. Everything we thought we knew and accepted about life on Earth, we got rid of it in an instant. You do something like that, there's no coming back from it. Now, you might say, this is the new normal. Everybody's going to accept their tyranny. Look, over the long term, people never accept despotism. People are not meant to live in cages, and they will not tolerate it for long. Maybe for a little while if they think there's a good reason, but it doesn't last. The narrative's collapsing. I encourage you, the Maine Policy Institute, and all the wonderful scholars, writers, and workers there, and thank God for the donors, too. I looked at the list of people who are supporting this luncheon. Thank you to all of you. You need to get passionate, get fiery. Be like Martin Kulldorff. Don't accept a compromise. Don't believe that the narrative of history is baked into the fabric of our lives and there's nothing you can do about it. That's not true. You can make a difference. The Maine Policy Institute is making a difference. Stick with it. Keep it up. We've got a world to win. This is the time. These are the times we were born to fight. This right now. The reason you love liberty is so that you can fight right now for what you know is true. I'd like to thank you especially for inviting me. It boosted my spirits, and I'm very flattered by the invitation. I hope you have a wonderful luncheon. All the best to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tucker. Obviously, it's a message that I think we all needed to hear right now. I want to wrap things up here this afternoon, though, by just once again saying thank you to all of you for joining us in this, the most unique Freedom and Opportunity event that we have ever hosted. This has obviously been an incredibly challenging year, but I actually am filled with a lot of confidence and a lot of optimism that some great victories are ahead for all of us. None of those victories, though, will be possible without your help and your support. So on behalf of everyone here at the Maine Policy Institute, I want to once again say thank you to everybody who has supported us this year, and ask that if you have any way of helping more, that your contribution is sent in now, because it would make a tremendous difference to us and to the state of Maine. We simply cannot do what we do without you. So in conclusion, thank you for sharing this day with us, and we look forward to seeing you again in person very soon.